Hi, part 2 of behaviors. Now, if you're just tapping in and you haven't seen part 1 of my behaviors video, I strongly recommend for you to see part 1, which should be just behind this video. Only because this is a continuation of a behaviors class that I teach, part 1 and part 2. And this is part 2. And we'll be referencing a little bit back to part 1 in this. So it's very important that you watch part 1 first and kind of do the exercises so you can lead yourself up to part 2. And now for my students that have already taken part 1 and is using this video as a catch-up as well. Now we're going to begin and we're going to go into part 2. And I'm going to go over the homework that you had done for part 1. And also, if you are one of my students, and I told you just go ahead if you're trying to catch up to take the next class that I'm giving, even going over the steps of the homework that you may not have done yet because you're watching one video to the other kind of quickly when there should be like a week or 2 weeks spans. That's totally okay. And you may even want to write down these questions because I'll ask them to you on the next go around. Okay, so now that I've got that out of the way, thank you so much for tuning in and let's begin. Okay, now we're doing behaviors 2 and we're understanding what our behaviors are, what our reactions are, how our behaviors actually stop us from doing things in our life and can stop us kind of dead in our tracks. It can hijack us, it can trigger us, and it can kind of take us through a little bit of a loop, right? And we focused on the 3 main behaviors in the last class from the long list of behaviors. Let me see if I can find it here. I've got my notes right down below, so I will be looking down a lot because I'm going to read a lot because this 2 sections of behavior, video 1 and video 2, I had to look down a lot because my notes are really clear and precise, and so I want to make sure I'm not skipping anything. But if you remember, this is the big list of, I know this is kind of reversed when you're saying it, but it's the big list of behaviors, and we circled all of them to find your 3 behaviors. And I said before, I originally circled all of them. So if you circled all of them or just a few of them, and if you got stuck on not just being able to do 3, but maybe there's 4 or 5 behaviors, or you got stuck just trying to circle the behaviors, you can always DM me. I've got my email down below, so you can always direct mail me, and then we can go over it together or we can type it out together. So just let me know how that goes for you and we can take it from there. Okay. All right, so let's begin. Let me ask you some questions here for the ones that have done the homework or in pursuit of doing the homework. It's kind of going back over what we had studied about, right? In behavioral video 1. It's catching the behaviors. So when did you most notice yourself in your behavior? So meaning, when did you catch yourself at the behavior? If you did this in your journal. And then where did you notice the behaviors most? So where did you notice it most? When did it come up for you most? Or did it come up the same type of behavior a couple of times even? And you're like, oh, there's that behavior again. Interesting. There's my controlling behavior. Oh, I'm being controlling in this situation. Oh, I'm being controlling in this conversation. Notice when the control comes up. Notice for avoidance. Oh, I'm going to avoid that. Oh, no, I'm going to avoid that again. Notice, wow, okay, I've come up with 2 avoidances in 2 different scenarios. Because the behaviors just doesn't have to be the exact same scenario every single time in the moment. It's always going to have different situations. And if you remember what we talked about where actions and reactions and what you suppress will progress, meaning there's an action, which is what we call a trigger, which I'm going to go down in a second. And then whatever the situation is, the circumstances is, then whatever that you've been suppressing will eventually rise up someday. And situations will happen, a trigger will happen, something you've been thinking, boom, out. So it finally comes up, it finally comes out. So, and that can be actually as easy as a circumstance, like, well, why is this happening to me now? Or, wow, I didn't see that coming. Or whatever it is, that's the circumstance of your behavior, or trying to keep it at bay and not feel that, right? So that's what that's about. So now we're going to talk about embracing, because we talked about embracing in our last class. The embracing part is being able to embrace your feelings and to honor your feelings and to know your feelings. That's embracing. So embracing, what did you notice about embracing? What did you learn about embracing? How do you, and then what is embracing for you? And what have you experienced in embracing before? When you've embraced something before, what have you experienced? What is embracing for you now that you understand it a little bit better? Of being able to embrace what that is. Because when we embrace, then we can surrender. I used the formulation in my last class about the Nescafe iced tea plunge, which was an old 70s commercial that the actor would plunge backwards into a pool holding a can or a bottle of iced tea, and it was just letting go and falling back in. That's embracing, because once you embrace, then you surrender, and that's the surrendering. That's the action of the surrendering. So hopefully this is making sense to you about embracing. And let's go to triggers. What was the trigger? What made you feel not safe when you went into a trigger response, which is something you might be thinking just one thing beforehand, something that may go all the way back to your childhood, and somebody may say something, might be even if you hear music that reminds you of something, or if somebody comments on something and it brings something back to you, and it's usually a feeling, and then it's an outburst energy, because that's the behavior. What did you see in your trigger? Meaning that's the trigger. So what did you see in that trigger that got you to that behavioral of, oh my God, I don't feel safe, which we call hijack. And what just happens? Something you remember in the, actually in the, oh, I have forgotten the name of it. Isn't that crazy? This section of the brain, I was just talking about it. You see, this is my behavior. Now I am going, okay, sorry about that. Something's going on with my phone. I am trying to, because I know it's the amygdala right here that creates that energy for a hijack response. It's the chemical in your brain that comes from here, but here I've totally blanked out on the name. And I thought maybe if I even talked about it, it would be good, but I am gonna have to look through my notes. Sorry guys. I'm just gonna look through and see if I can find it, because once again, I am not remembering it. Blah, 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 blah. You know what, it's probably even on the next note. But let me see, I am still going over this. Isn't this funny? And of course, what am I seeing? Out of my nervousness of not being able to find it, I'm kind of walking myself through my own behavior, is that All I see is the amygdala. I'm not seeing the, oh shoot, it's cortex, but what's the first name of it? I know you're probably screaming at me right now, because if you followed video one, I was saying it all the time. Neocortex. Okay. And I didn't even see it in my notes. This is how behaviors can happen. For me, it's if I can't come up with the name, my behavior and my self-talk is one, you're not good enough, or I'll say something else that will be in a negative, and I'll react more to that. I'll get hijacked in my amygdala back here. First the neocortex, then it follows to the amygdala, takes the chemical response, filters it through my body. It could be anything from cortisol, which is kind of angers you up and tenses you up, or it could be adrenaline, start pumping, and I just want to like run away or turn off the video real quick, put it on hold, which I could have done, right? But then my amygdala, knowing about my behaviors, I was like, wait a minute. You know what? I'm just going to look through my notes here. And you're going to have to wait, but I'm going to look through my notes. But then I thought, you know what? I'm going to talk through this, because why not talk through what the behavior is? And as I'm talking, I'm taking deep breaths and going, okay, I'm fine. Calming down my amygdala because it's firing off, and going, no, you've got this. And this is silly because you talked about this, and you probably talked about it so much on the last video. Of course you would blank out. And of course, the first thought in my brain is amygdala, amygdala, amygdala. But the neocortex. But this is the way of being able to go, okay, I'm not going to get in my behavior mode. I'm not going to go in my safety mode. Usually I'm like, oh, save me. What would save me was if I turned off the video. That would have been my hero. Don't need a hero in this situation. I just need to remember that word. And maybe I'll write it down next time if I do this video again. Anyways, okay, now that I have totally lost my place, let's see. Let me get back to 2, and then we can dig in here. Okay, found it. All right, I'm back on track. Okay, so I think I did cover that after all that. So anyways, you know, no longer resisting, like I was saying, the Nestea iced tea plunge into the pool. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's what I just did. I owned it, went, oh, you know, I'm in this situation, but I'm going to take that plunge, and I am not going to react. I can follow it through to the bitter end, right? And see if I can calm it down without getting all crazy or starting this video all over again. That used to be an old habit of mine and an old behavior of mine. And if it was really bad, and if it was another subject, I probably would have. But just to remember one freaking name is like, all right, I got this. So thank you. Anyways, so so to recognize your triggers right before your behaviors happen, of feeling of I'm not safe. It's, once again, the amygdala that I was just talking about right here firing off, having these chemical reactions, right? Well, then, you know, what were you feeling like before you caught yourself in that behavior? What was your feeling? What was your thought? What was going on? Were you irritated? Were you angry? Were you, you know, what were you before that happened? Something set you off, is what usually people say, right? And what did you learn about the trigger? Like, now that you can identify a trigger, does anything that can just, woo, you know, wraps up the neocortex. It's a memory from your past. It's a memory from your feeling between 1 and 3 years old that you can't describe, but it's a feeling, which is our instincts too, by the way, and you feel it. So what is that? And then on top of it, Now you're going to name it. Now you're going to identify it. That's where it goes through the neocortex again. This is all identification. This is where the ego lies. In the ego, it creates the I of who we are. And we can identify anything from a coffee cup to, and knowing that that's a coffee cup, to the embodiment of I know I'm Mark because I've been told my name is Mark. And that's been a self-identification. So that's all lodged up here in the neocortex for the understanding. Now, when something happens, and that's when it goes into the amygdala, shifts to the amygdala, creates a chemical reaction, not just the thought, but now it's processing in our body. And that's when it's our warning center. It's also our calm down center too, because there's this thing called oxytocin. When the behavior happens, breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in. Why do they say just breathe if you get overexcited or you get hijacked? It's because you're bringing in this oxytocin. You're bringing in where you see rainbows and butterflies, literally, and unicorns. I mean, that's what calms you down. I live on Maui, and on Maui, we call it the Maui moment. You look at an ocean, you look at the sky, and you're like, in the mountains, and you're like, wow, this is like a Japanese painting. It's a sense, and it's the emotion. It's not a behavior, but it's an emotion that comes up that's calming and calms you down. That's because of the oxytocin coming into the brain, the oxygen coming through your body. If the adrenaline's being released because you're hijacked and everything's an intense high alert, that's what calms down the endorphins. That's what calms down the chemicals that will cause you to tense up. That's when you release, like doing yoga, right? So it's the same type of feeling. So that's a feeling compared to a behavior where you have a feeling, and it can be a warning sign. It can be an emotional response, outwardly or inwardly emotional response that you can name, and sometimes you can't name it, but you can feel it. And if you're aware that you can feel it, that's the key to be able to understand what's going on. If you're suppressing something and you suppress, well, it's naturally going to come back up. And that's when you have your circumstances. That's when things change, like I was talking about earlier. So this is just another thing. This is just what we're going to be talking about more, because now that we've identified the 3 behaviors from the past video, your 3 behaviors, we're actually going to go under there. We're going to do a little thing as coaches call the dig, where we're just going to dig down a little bit and see if there's something right here that we can identify as well, and what that is, and what brings all this up to the surface, right? So let's continue. This is called the hidden benefit, and this is what I'm leading into when I'm saying that we're going to dig down. There's a hidden benefit, believe it or not, under the 3 dominant behaviors. Just right here. And you're like, why is it a benefit? Well, it's a benefit because it's an emotional benefit. So, and I'll explain about that right now. Okay, so excuse me while I look down at my notes, because I have this written out. So the purpose of this segment is to identify the reaction to the behavior, like I was just talking about earlier. And then let me read this little ditty to you. There's a couple of things I'm going to read. Okay, here we go. So this one is, due to universal law, all having an action to a reaction, the behaviors will be the action. There must be a reaction. Within that reaction, there is a benefit. If there wasn't a reaction of benefit to you, then you would be able to stop the behavior. This may confuse you, because how could you possibly be getting something out of being a victim or manipulative or defensive, whatever your behaviors are. So what this is telling us is that within each behavior you're putting out there, you are receiving something back. Within this receiving lies something that you actually enjoy. It's called a hidden benefit. Hidden because you may be thinking, how could I possibly be receiving something from being controlling, defensive, or manipulative? But think of it this way. If you weren't getting something out of them, then wouldn't you stop the behavior? And let's not forget, this is a universal law. Whatever you put out, you will receive something back. So meaning that earlier I used the shell as an example in my previous video, Behaviors Part 1. And universal law is like Isaac Newton's theory with the apple and the apple tree, with Isaac Newton sitting below it and having an apple drop on his head. Well, the action is throwing up this seashell, just throwing it all up, and then watching, and then what's it going to do? The action is throwing it up. The reaction is the seashell falling. That's the reaction. The gravity takes it, pulls it back down. It's a universal law. That's what happens. So when we're talking about action and reaction and getting something back, what you put out there must come back. There's also a little theory, I'm going to kind of veer off for 2 seconds. There's also a little theory in the universe about how you put something out there, if it's positive and you get positivity back. Well, it's the same thing. If you put something out negative, you get negative back as well, because the universe provides, right? On a higher plane, on a higher level, the universe must provide. So, for example, if someone says, I don't have any money, I don't have any money, I don't have any money, well, you're not going to have any money, right? Because the universe has to provide. And when someone's positive about, I have abundance, I'm bringing in money, then money comes to me, money comes easily, well, then money will come easily because the universe provides. Even though money is a hardship question and actually can go into a behavior. As soon as I say money, how did you feel? Probably like, oh, money. Oh yeah, no, that never works for me. No, That's the thing. If someone's saying, I want abundance, I want money to come in easy, but it's not coming easy because their behavior and their trigger is triggered because of the word of money. And what we usually say is, what you suppress will progress. Well, you're actually saying, okay, well, I want this, so I'm not going to think about this other feeling that's coming in because it's coming down, but it's still coming in, and the universe has to provide. What's going to be the stronger feeling? The I want money, or I still don't have enough money. I don't know if this is really going to work. This really isn't me. I don't believe in abundance. This isn't going to happen. Yet you're spitting it out there and saying it out loud. I want money, but the universe is going to come in. Your feeling is you have two different polarities happening. And what's the universe going to listen to? Most likely the universe is going to listen to what's inside you, because that's your being. And that's what you're truly, really feeling. And this is just surface, right? What comes up must come down. What you suppress will progress. So it's kind of like this crazy 8 happening. And to be able to focus back into behavior, that's exactly what consciously or unconsciously we're doing, and what that benefit is, why we're not doing that, because we're being supplied with this benefit. And I can use more examples, but we'll go into it a little bit more here. Okay. So, so let's see. So for clarifying again, let's just clarify. You have more reason to keep those behaviors around than you do to actually free yourself of them. What are you hearing in this? What do you want to do with these behaviors? Do behaviors ever go away? What happens if we resist them? What can we do with them? The answer is free you from them, like the iced tea plunge, right? Like going back in the water, like surrendering, like allowing. Freedom, once again, is the key. In order to free you from the behaviors, we must identify what this thing you enjoy is. What is the hidden benefit? In identifying this, what do you think will occur? Okay, so we're going to identify what this is and why the behaviors still come up. Because believe it or not, it's a gift, right? It's something we enjoy, which at the time we don't enjoy, right? Do you remember when we spoke about acknowledgement? What does that create? Okay, that's something from the last class and actually a previous class about acknowledging your values. What are your values? Values are things that you hold dear, things that you love, things that get you through life, right? It's things that you value. So that's what values are. It creates whatever we acknowledge to be released. It is as though it no longer holds power over us because we know it's there. So to be able to acknowledge it no longer holds power over us and the behavior no longer holds power. Like when I got into not being able to remember the neocortex, well, I could have freaked out about that. I didn't, because I wouldn't let it hold the power over me. I'm like, I know I'll see it and I'll probably remember it before I even see the page. So I was always telling myself, don't worry, it's gonna be okay, right? So to find the hidden benefit, like I said earlier, we're gonna dig in. We're gonna dig in under what those three values were for you, and some other things too, of course. Let's see. So I'm going to read this. We are going to identify your hidden benefit. I am going to ask you to put down your pen and paper and just get really comfortable. I'm going to ask you some questions. And what I need you to do is just say whatever comes up for you. No filtering. What you are doing, what you're going to say. It is really important that you just say whatever comes up from the questions. Okay? Do you get that? What I'm going to do is kind of like what I'm sure you've seen this before, or I might have even done this before, where you just kind of relax, chill, and you think of the first thing that comes up for you. Usually it's like, say the first thing that comes up for you, or like that exercise in video behavioral 1, where I said, think of the first thing if I say or you read the list of behaviors. What comes up for you? How do you identify with it? Okay, so, and just kind of follow me here and just relax. And then also, this is something that is on your worksheet. So for my students, if I've sent you the worksheet, this is the worksheet. It's about what my behavior is. So, and if you don't have the worksheet, I'll be reading it to you. And then after we do this exercise, we'll be going over this again. So you'll be able to write it in your journal. So make sure you have a journal, make sure you have some paper and a pen. But for right now, you're not going to do anything, but just relax. Okay. So let's begin with the controlling behavior. So I'm just going to pick one and see how this goes, all right? So take a deep breath, let it out. Let's take another deep breath in, let it out. Let's take one more breath. Deep breath in, hold it, 1, 2, 3, then finally let it out slow. And relax. Okay, so my first question, what happens when you are in a controlling behavior? Think about that. What happens when you're in a controlling behavior? And if controlling is not one of your behaviors, what behavior is it? Just place that behavior that you've chosen, your top 3. It can be controlling. What happens when you're in a controlling behavior? What happens when you're in an avoiding behavior? What happens when you are in an angry behavior? What happens when you're in a behavior? And just think about that. Then, why is that controlling behavior important to you? Why is it important to you, do you think? What is it? Okay. Why might that be important that you get that? What does that give you? How do others respond to you when you are in that behavior of controlling or avoiding? How do people respond to you or whatever behavior? So let's go back one more time and I'll ask the questions again. And this time I'm going to say blank so that way you can fill in your own behavior. Now remember, you have 3 behaviors, so now you're using your second behavior. Okay, what happens when you are in a blank behavior? What is that? How is it important to you? Why might that be important that you get that? What does that give you? How do others respond to you when you are in that blank behavior? Okay, let's do the last one. Okay, because hopefully you've picked 3. If not more, it's okay if you have 4 and 5. And also, like values, behaviors can shift a little bit too. Your top 3 can always change because we go into different behaviors 24/7. So these aren't your only ones. This is just the ones you're identifying right now for this exercise. Okay, so let's do this one more time. All right, take a deep breath in. Release. Okay, what happens when you are in a blank behavior? Why is that important to you? Why might that be important that you get this? What does that give you? How do others respond to you when you are in that particular, behavior? So how do others respond to you when you are in that behavior? Okay. Okay, now we're going to dig a little deeper so we can find your hidden benefit. So, Consider your behavior's hidden benefit is all about you receiving what is it? What do you receive? When I said the last question before the exercise, how do others respond to you when you are in that behavior? What are you receiving at that moment? You know, what is that? How do you feel? And for some examples, so because we're not on a one-on-one session and you're out there and I'm here, I'm going to read some main hidden benefits usually are. So usually it's validation, it's being right, it's attention, acknowledgement, power, confirmation, affirmation, acceptance. So let me say that again. So this is, or can be, your hidden benefit if this chimes with you for what I've just asked you in those questions is, and you can write this down too, is validation, being right, attention, acknowledgement, power, confirmation, affirmation, acceptance. And sometimes when people are being controlling, usually they're looking for acceptance, right? Or they're looking for attention, or they're looking for being right. So there could be many of these things that I just, words that I just said, that could go into just one behavior, or re-identify the behavior. At one time it could be just to get the acceptance, or maybe it's power, like a power trip, when they say, oh, that person's on a power trip, man. Or being right. No, I just want to be heard. I just want to be right. And when you get a reaction from that, from the behavior and other people's reaction, you get that, what we kind of call a gift. You get that. And yeah, it can be considered a negative gift, but it's just to know what that's all about. And that's when some people, when you hear somebody say, I just need to speak my truth, and if you've never heard that before, it just means I need to say something without any reaction from other people. I don't need a hug. I don't need a handshake. I don't even need rolling eyes. What I need is just to be able to say this. And to be able to say, wow, I'm really being controlling right now in this conversation, or wow, I'm being really controlling in this project at work. I'm seeing that I want to have attention, that I want more attention. Oh, I'm seeing I'm on a power trip. Oh, wow, I'm seeing that I'm wanting to be right in this when maybe I'm wrong, or maybe, but there's something that triggered me, that put me into hijack from my amygdala. That was a memory of something in the past that I'm not even connected to right now. But for some reason, I feel like I need to be right. Maybe I was never heard in the past for some other thing. And now you're correcting the wrong and being right. So you see how these behaviors can kind of like bounce back and forth a little bit, and how you can kind of catch it at the same time. And if you catch it, you can admit to it, and that's speaking your truth. There was one time that I was going to do a lecture on stage, and I think there was something going on with my PowerPoint, or I wasn't sure how to use the clicker or something, but then my behavior started coming up, and it's like, you see, you're not good enough. Or you see, you're getting the fear, and I'm feeling butterflies in my stomach, and I'm getting nervous, right? And when I walked out on that stage feeling that, of course, what was I doing? I was probably in a behavior, right? And getting nervous, and I wanted confirmation. I wanted being right, like, yep, this is what's going on. Maybe a sense of power too. But then all I did was I went out there, I looked at the audience, and I said, wow, this clicker is making me really nervous, and I feel like I'm going into my behaviors before I even speak, because this clicker is going to be my PowerPoint up on stage, right? Never used this before. And in this demeanor, because I'd never seen this clicker type thing before. I think it was when everything was starting to change. And so, long story short, I could have given into my behavior, but instead I spoke my truth and I said, wow, this is how I'm feeling. Don't want any applause or anything like that for encouragement. Just letting you know this is how I'm feeling. So if I get a little nervous with the clicker, you'll know why. And the same thing with losing my place again, right? Earlier, same thing. You just move right through it. And I told you, okay, I'm going to find this thing. It's here somewhere. Just bear with me. And you kind of walk yourself through it. You walk yourself through those situations. And so this is why when you get triggered or a behavior is coming up and you're trying to think of your hidden benefit, you're going, okay, am I trying to be right? Am I trying to get attention? Is it acknowledgement? Affirmation? Is it acceptance? Do I want to be accepted out of something, a situation that's happening right now? What is really going on? And so you kind of walk yourself through it. So that's what that is all about. So consider your hidden benefit is all about you receiving what? And you can go through those 3 steps again. Now on the worksheet that I have here, and I will read it to you too, this is the time to pick up your pen and paper or journal, and let's start writing here. Okay, so number 1, you're going to be writing this down. When my behavior is blank, and that blank's going to be one of your behaviors, one of your 3 behaviors. The hidden benefit is blank. It's what you're feeling at the time. It's what you're wanting, like being right, getting attention, acknowledgement, power, confirmation, affirmation, acceptance, or whatever else is coming up for you. If there's another word, please put that in. You don't have to follow what's in the textbook, right? Okay. So, and then you go down the line. Once again, number 2 is when my behavior is, the hidden benefit is, and then write out what happened in the next 3 lines. What was the action of all that? What actually happened? And number 3, with your 3rd behavior, when my behavior is, whatever that behavior is, the hidden benefit is, you write down the hidden benefit, then what's the action to that? What's the action? What actually happened? This is a way for you to realize and to visually see and writing it out, like speaking your truth, what's happening in the moment. Kind of cool. Okay. Let's continue on here. So where the behaviors and hidden benefits, where did they come from? So this is where you're going to, again, see the hidden benefit. Yeah, okay. So in this process, where would you say behaviors come from? Think about that. Where do behaviors come from? Behaviors are learned from somewhere in our past. They are usually learned from our parents. If you look at mom and dad, or both, they have the same behaviors. So here's what happens. Okay, listen to this. I'm going to read you a little story here so you can make sense of what we're talking about. Okay, so here's what happens. At some point, you're going through your life and something happens, an event or an experience that you really can't understand. All you really understand is that this experience didn't feel good. Perhaps you felt wrong, alone, just had this really yucky feeling, and you couldn't understand it. Not only could you not understand it, you couldn't tell someone about it because you couldn't understand what was going on. All you knew was that you didn't feel good, and all you wanted to do was feel better. So you naturally look to those you love for help because you couldn't verbalize what is happening. You watch what they are doing, and let's say you see mom being controlling. You learn by actions at that point, so you use that controlling behavior, and instantly you feel better because you got whatever that hidden benefit was, and that felt good. So then again, you are going through your life and something happens. Again, an event or an experience that you couldn't understand. All you understood was that it had you feeling not good. You felt wrong, bad, or just plain yucky. And all you wanted to do was feel better. So you remember the last time the controlling thing worked well. So you do it again and it feels better, but not enough. You still don't feel really good. So you look again at the others are doing, what others are doing, and you learn defensiveness. You use defensiveness and instantly you receive whatever that hidden benefit is. So you are good now. Only another event or an experience happens again. The same thing, only the controlling and the defensive behaviors aren't having you feel better. So it's time to learn another behavior. And it comes in as manipulation. And then you turn 5. Okay, so all of that happens before you even turn 5. From 1 to 5, your brain is still developing. You have more feelings than you do to be able to physically say things out and make sense out of it. There's a lot going on. From 3 to 5, we're developing our higher consciousness. From ages 12 to 15, this is why we couldn't understand what was happening. All you did understand was that you didn't feel good. Feelings are our navigation systems from our being. This is why we feel before we think. This is also why behaviors are so ingrained in us, as they have been a part of our everyday life since childhood. And because of the hidden benefit, they have become a drug. It's been the only way to receive that feeling or to receive that good feeling until now. So once again, behaviors are learned from the ages 3 to 5, and your higher consciousness mind has not yet been developed at that age. That doesn't occur until the ages of 12 to 15. This is why you couldn't understand what was happening. All you did understand was that you didn't feel good. Feelings are our navigational system as a part of our being. This is why you feel better before you can think. This is also why the behaviors are so ingrained in you, as they have been a part of your everyday life since childhood. And because of the hidden benefit, they become like a drug. It's been the only way to receive that good feeling until now, right? Until we realize, oh, okay, I was searching for that good feeling, but is that a good feeling? You know, what is that? Okay, so we're going to go on to another segment. Again, if you have questions about that, feel free to DM me, direct email me down below. There is an email down there. For my students, you can go to the Facebook group and we can share on that as well. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to be able to free ourselves. And that's the handout once again, where I was explaining before on this, where we're going to write down the what is our hidden benefit. Let's see, I'm just going to catch up with myself because I was kind of a little forward there, which is actually good. I mean, it's just repeating the exercise again to write down, when my behavior is blank, the hidden benefit is, let's skip the action part and move to the next one. When my behavior is, the hidden benefit is, again, skip the action part and move to the next one. When my behavior is, the hidden benefit is, okay. So it's just a kind of refresh and skipping the action because we'll get back into that later. So now we're going to get into what I was talking about what speaking your truth is all about, right? So what does speak your truth mean to you after what I've just explained and what we've just been going through? When I am with you, sorry, this is another little ditty that I'm trying to, okay, so what does speaking your truth mean to you? Okay, I'm just trying to make sense out of this because it's all about speaking your truth. And number one, there's no exceptions. If there's exceptions of how the person will react, this is not speaking the truth. And the behavior is still present and talking. Ownership. There is ownership of feelings, thoughts, actions, etc. Third is the I form. It is stated in the I form. So we're going to have you see the difference between the I form, the ownership without blame. Okay, that kind of caught me a little bit because I was like, wait, what's that all about? But I get it now. And when I am with you, this is an example. When I am with you, I feel unworthy. This example still isn't speaking your truth. Yes, there is the I form. However, there is still blame in that statement when I am with you. Because we have to remember, our behaviors are our behaviors. We own these behaviors. It's within me. It may not have anything to do with them. So there's the blame. I have uncovered that I feel unworthy, and for that, for whatever reason, it is coming out now. This statement is speaking your truth, as it is in the I form and the ownership of their feelings. So you see the difference from when I am with you, I feel unworthy, to being truly truthful. I have uncovered that I feel unworthy, and for whatever reason, it's coming out now. I feel unworthy. Not that you make me unworthy. I feel unworthy. There was a trigger, a thought before that. Whatever that was, again, that person's not to blame because it's us. It's within us, right? That's our reactions. Knee skip on. Okay, I'm trying to make sense out of this. To be able to say, I want to ask you what you hear and write down what you do hear. Give an example in your journal about what you hear in that. About when I'm with you, I feel unworthy, compared to I have uncovered that I feel unworthy. And for whatever reason, it's coming out now. Okay. So sometimes we can hold our truth for a very long time. And it could be someone important in your life. It could be your husband, your mother, your father, your sister, your friend, your coworker, or even a boss. However, that untruth is with it, it comes out energetically. And because of this, the behaviors will be on guard in dominant mode, speaking their truth. As an action doesn't just have to be in the moment that you catch the behavior. It could also be a conversation that has needed to happen for some time now. If so, you'll want to ask if you need any support in that conversation. Meaning, look over what that conversation would be. See if you need support in that, and what is that? Okay. So I hope that makes sense. Once again, if it doesn't, DM me down below and I'll explain it better. Okay. But pretty much it's saying these are ways of being able to speak your truth to someone very important. Again, what you suppress progresses. So if we haven't told our truth, it just builds, and circumstances happen, and other circumstances can happen. It doesn't have to be the same story, because that story didn't work, so now it's going to go to something else. Now it's going to go to something else. What we want to do is be able to speak our truth, get that out for us, for me, and going, I feel unworthy right now, but I feel it. Not you've made me unworthy, right? I feel it. That's the truth. I own it. I own that I'm feeling that. I own that that's a behavior. I own that that's an ego thing that always is going off. And I need to check into that for me, but I'm saying it out loud. Okay, to make that clarification. So it's kind of like if you go through this exercise of when my behavior is blank, my hidden behavior is, the action is really just speaking your truth. This is how I feel. This is why I feel this. And it's not on you. This is for me. No, I don't need a hug. Sometimes people want to pull you out of your behavior. Going, oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Oh, let's go for a walk. And sometimes you may need to go, no, I'm speaking my truth right now. For some reason, I'm feeling vulnerable, or for some reason, I'm feeling controlling. Well, I'm just going to sit in this, and I'm going to figure this out. Or I'm going to emotionally, let me do this. Let me have a good cry, right? Let me have a good cry. Instead of trying to cheer me up with flowers and hugs, just let me, instead of distracting me. Our loved ones can be the most distracted people ever. They have well intentions and we love them, and they love you. But the best sign of love is just to let you go through the process and let you think it out, sort it out in that moment, because then you can lead on, right? You can lead yourself on. So that's another exercise to do. with the behaviors. Okay. I'm just wondering if I should give you this exercise or not. This is another it's another thing that's kind of interesting. I'm just trying to see how I can say this in video. Is what does this mean to you? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just going to see if I need to say this. Oh, okay. This is where I guess it's easier. I got stuck here because usually I would just say this is a little bit of like if you're a beginner in meditation or a dabbler, or if you're an expert, where you've had stuff about this. First of all, how do you feel about meditation? And also, what is your level of competency with it? Meaning that, do you understand it when you're in meditation? What is meditation? A lot of people don't like closing their eyes and going inside. The meditation doesn't have to exactly be like that. It can just be asking these questions is like a meditation. Because what we're doing is we're digging deeper and we're going inside. Now, people that are used to meditating, and if you're watching this and you're like, no, I love meditation, it's easy for me to do this. Ask these questions to yourself in the meditation. See where it goes. See how young you are when you first have that feeling or that reaction, and what's the hidden benefit? What feels good in the moment? Is it being heard? Is it, what is it? Is it disappearing? Is it avoidance? That kind of thing is your gift. And then if you say, wow, I'm really feeling this right now, out loud, to be truthful, then you can be truthful to yourself, and then you can acknowledge what and how that behavior begins and what that trigger is and what that memory stored in the neocortex is. I almost forgot it again. The neocortex going into the amygdala that does the reaction to our body. And instead of tensing up and getting all crazy, take a deep breath, relax, and see if you get a different response, because now you've said it out loud, or you've processed it and you've breathed it out. Breathing is also speaking your truth, by the way. You don't always have to verbally say, oh, I feel this, I feel that, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't have to be like that. It'd be great if we could do that all the time, right? Or our mind can think that clearly all the time. But it's not that, because you got to remember, we're human. We're going to hit our behaviors. We're going to hit who we are. We're going to remember something back that's going to be kind of crazy, right? So now we have to make sense out of it. And sometimes that can just be in the breath, where you see that oxytocin again and the rainbows and the butterflies. Like all of a sudden you dissipate that behavior that can ride up with fear, that can ride up with self-doubt, that can ride up with ego, that can create this guy to do what he wants to do, the amygdala. So there's all that going on, but it's so much going on at once, you're not going to think about it. The best thing you can say is, wow, I feel really controlling right now, or wow, I'm really needing to be heard right now, And is that a good thing? Who cares? As long as you acknowledge it, and as long as you say, oh, that's what it is, then you've named it, and you've named your hidden benefit from underneath it. And that's what we mean about a hidden benefit, with your 3 behaviors that pop up, that seem to pop up all the time. And see if they start switching. See if you're, okay, I'm complete with this, and now I can move on in my life. Maybe these behaviors won't pop up as much, and maybe the trigger won't be as harsh, because now you know what the trigger is. Or whatever you were thinking 3 seconds before, something happened to bring it up to the surface, right? What you've suppressed will progress. What comes up must come down. Okay, so that's the lesson on behaviors. I'm going to see if there's any more. I'm sorry to always have to look away, but the book is down here and the camera's way up there. So Just don't want to miss anything. Pretty much it's the same thing. It's like what I would be, just catch yourself in the behaviors, carry your journal still, and like I had you do for homework for the first video, is still keep that. But now you have these questions. And once again, I'll read these questions one more time if you don't have the sheet. When my behavior is, the hidden benefit is, then what's the action? And you do that 3 times. Or how many times when those behaviors come up? Because the action's going to be the reaction, right? And it is going to help you be able to speak your truth. The truth is the key that sets everything free. Because when you speak the truth, then you're embracing it. And then you surrender like the iced tea plunge in the pool. And that is always wonderful. So I always complete with values. What was the value in this lesson for you? Please write that down in your journal. If you want to share that with me, DM me down below, direct email me. I'd love to hear what your process is and what's going on. And for my students that are doing the makeup catch-up class, I'll talk to you next week. And you can still email me and let me know how the work is going and how this is going during the week, if you want to be back in contact in that sense. Okay, so I will be, we've done behaviors, and we've done behaviors 1 and 2 video. So make sure to watch that complete. And I will send you off with, I was going to say aloha since I live on Maui, and just really focus in and realize where your emotions lie and why. Okay, and remember, speak your truth. So with that, thank you.